So many of you have been asking me questions about the UCAS form, how to fill it out, certain bits and certain questions. So what I'm going to do now is take you through the UCAS application, what UCAS is, and I'm going to go through it live with you as I do a fake application and show you everything that you need to do along the way and answer all the common questions that people always are asking me at each stage, so you understand exactly what to do and make sure you submit a really solid application free of any mistakes. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dr. Ash. I'm a doctor and a dentist, and every week we put out videos to help you submit your best possible application to medicine and dentistry. So to make sure you don't miss out on the latest updates and keeping your finger on the pulse, click subscribe and turn on notifications to make sure you get regular updates with our videos. So if you're applying to a university in the UK, it will undoubtedly be through the University and Colleges Admission Service, or UCAS for short, and they have their own online hub where you can submit your application in one place and it goes to all of the universities that you apply to. Now, if you're applying to medicine or dentistry, you obviously only get the 4 places available to a medicine or dentistry course, but you do have a 5th one of biomed or whatever you want to apply to that we'll discuss a little bit later. But for now, we're just going to look at the hub itself. On the subject of medicine though, there is one university currently at the time of recording, that is the University of Buckingham, which is a private university, and you can submit an additional extra application directly to them via their website. Otherwise, everything that you do is going to be via UCAS. So let's dive in now, and I'm going to, as I said, show you and take you through the entire application and show you the questions and things that people have along the way and the mistakes to avoid.
So you can start by going to a little website called Google, you may have heard of it, and you type in UCAS, or you can go directly to the website at ucas.com. So there, get rid of all those cookies. So sign in, obviously, check cookies again, register. And if you would like to know the password that I use for everything, just email me at notachanceinhell@futuredoc.com. You get the code. So then we get into our platform. We need to, great, so let's see. You find your address, obviously. Yeah, sure, let's do that. This isn't my real address, don't try and find me there. Let's do 2nd of Feb. 2007 you lot are now. So let's say undergraduate study, because that's what you'd be at 17. When are you planning to start uni? So we want to start uni in 2025, or i.e. the year after. So at this stage, this is where some people have some confusion. So you're either going to be in 2 camps. You're either going to be applying through your school. So that's if you're currently in 6th form, or maybe even if you left recently, maybe last year, they will usually let you use them as your application school or your center. Now, this will be the difference between being a center-linked application where you go through a school that you've stated here, or you might do it another way. So let's say if you're an international student or if you're a grad, you will probably be an independent. If you go for the center-linked application, your school or college would give you a buzzword that links your application to them. So that gives them the chance to put in your predicted grades and also act as your reference. The person that's declared themselves your center has some roles and responsibilities, including the review of your application, returning the application to you for updates and amendments, and adding a reference and predicted grades like I said, and also approving both the reference and the application. Now, if you have a center-linked application, they are responsible for submitting your application, finalizing it by the UCAS deadline. So the chances are that they will have their own internal deadline so that you give them plenty of time so that they could submit it before that deadline occurs. Now again, if you fall under the other category, so that means that you're an independent, that usually means that you are either in employment or you are no longer attending school, you're home educated, you're maybe considered a mature student, which is the grand old age of 21 when you submit, or above when you're submitting your application, or simply that you want to be independent from the centered linked application process. If you're applying independently and you skip that, you'll be taken straight through to your application where you can just start completing the stuff that I'm going to show you now. But the thing to bear in mind that if you are an independent application, the responsibility is fully on you to make sure everything is submitted, or your references are done, which we'll talk about, and just everything is in place by that deadline. So this is what mine looks like as an independent setup from scratch, but I'm going to show you one of our students who's kindly allowed us to see the back end of their application. So this is all anonymized obviously, but it looks a bit like this, and they've submitted their application as you can see. But when you go like you would here into the start application that you can see here, for now I would just skip this section. If you do have a school and you know who you're applying through, then of course just put them here. Let's say, I'll put my old school, Arthur Terry School. So that was where I went to school. So I would put that, but for now, let's just skip this. So what subjects are you interested? You could do medicine. Which universities and colleges are you interested in? Again, you don't have to put this at this stage, but I went to King's, so let's say King's. You could put unsure. Obviously, it doesn't really matter at this stage. Which industries are you interested in? So let's stick to the medicine one, or health and science. And study opportunities, get selected for information, blah, 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 blah. No. Don't want that. So now we enter the hub, and you can see obviously that it's just a dashboard for us to make a start on our application. So it wouldn't be a read-only version because it's been submitted, but you can see that you are linked to the college. That's if you go for a center linked application, but obviously again, if you're independent, you'll have what I have here, which is nothing, and you just start completely from scratch. So let's start the application and have a look. So some important things to know first. Then year of study, that we're going as an undergraduate. These are really important things to ascertain, obviously. So then we'll go into the Start 2025 application. So to show you here, so again, this is from mine from scratch. If I'm going from here, this is where it will ask me to link the school, and at this stage it will want to know my predicted grades and ask me to appoint a referee. This is quite an important one, and we've done a video which I'll link to here, which we showed how to get a referee. It's important to approach them ahead of time, make sure you've agreed it with them. Again, if you're going through a school, they will usually have somebody allocated to do this, or they'll be expecting it. But again, whether you're independent or going through a center linked application, it's really important, just as a courtesy, to speak to them and say, look, I'd like to use you as my referee, or the appointed person at the school who is doing the references, to say, please, just be aware that I'm going to link you, and you'll either by your school be given an email to put in, or if it's somebody that you know personally as an independent, then you'll put their email, because they'll be getting all the notifications. This is the buzzword that I talked about, and your center will have given you this. So to actually do this properly, this is where I need to have a genuine school to progress. I can show you the one that of a completed one, but it doesn't really take you through this. And I'm sure your school or center will have probably told you about all of this, but at least have some information for what to do. But it's pretty streamlined at their end, and they're very well versed at doing this sort of thing. So let's carry on as an independent so that I can show you exactly what you need to do, because you'll get this progress bar and you need to show exactly what you're doing. So just a final bit on references. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're going through a center linked application, your school or college will handle the reference. However, if you're an independent applicant, you must find a referee. So UCAS have some criteria for people to act as referee for your application. So you might want to figure this out by checking the guidance. So applicants who apply independently must ask for a reference from someone who knows them in an academic or a professional capacity. So it can be a lecturer at university if you're studying, it can be a boss at work. It's anybody who you think will give a good account of you. And like I said, we've got a video just to explain exactly how to choose a good referee and what you should do as well. But anyway, it must not be a family member, friend, partner, or ex-partner, and they must not write it themselves. Because if I were to write my own reference, I might be inclined to exaggerate how good I am. But it's important to remember that references are essential for your application. So I've seen it a lot of times where people have everything ready for their application, but they don't have a reference. And if you can't get it, you can't submit your application. So this is usually the thing, the rate limiting step, the thing that stops people and slows people down with their application. So get this organized early, because that is the thing that if you don't have it, you can do all of the things that you need to do, have it all set up perfectly. But if you don't have the person who's clicked submit reference, then you can't submit your application. And as I say, I go through more of it in that video, but we want to select someone who can vouch for your interest in that course and has known you for a significant amount of time and can attest to your character and your soft skills and all your achievements and everything. To give you an idea of the questions they get asked, I can put them on screen now. So section 1 is to provide an overview of your relationship with the applicant, which is mandatory. Section 2 is, if applicable, enter any information or extenuating circumstances which may have impacted the applicant's education and achievement. So extenuating circumstances are anything, whether it could be family troubles, personal troubles, health, whatever it is that can impede your education and the ability to get the grades that you could have. But section 3 is really where you should be working alongside your referee. They probably have helped you with your application, collaborated a little bit on your personal statement and offered some feedback on it. So they should know a lot about you, but also it's really important to keep them up to date with your application and your course details and some of the things that universities would like in their future students, to show the referee that you possess those skills, traits, whatever it is, so that they can sing about your praises in this section. Okay, so final little bit of logistics on the referee, and then we'll move on to choices. So you'll enter your referee's contact details in the reference section, and UCAS will email them with the instructions on what to do. This is if you're an independent. The referee can then enter the reference and the applicant's predicted grades if applicable. The referee can also see the qualifications that require predicted grades. They cannot view the applicant's entire application, so they only have their own little referee section that doesn't see everything else. And then just one final reminder, if you're doing it through a school or college as a centre-linked application, they will be responsible for the final sign-off. But if you're doing it as an independent, you are responsible for submitting it on time, and that includes getting this referee's part done. So really important to be organised, communicate with them, give them the respect and the time to do a good job, so that then they can be doing that while you're doing all your other stuff. You don't need one to do the other, they just both need to be done in time so that you can submit everything. So you can be working away at your stuff while you set them to go away and do their reference, and they can both be working on it independently, and one doesn't affect the other, but they, like I say, both need to be ready by the deadline. So this is where you do all of that centre information, but of course, because I'm faking it until I make it here, I can't do this bit. But let's move on to the next bit, which is the choices. So this is where you choose your 4 dental schools or 4 medical schools. Now remember, you're allowed 5 places overall. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you can only choose 4 medical or dental schools, right? So really, really important. Now I'll talk a little bit about what to do with the 5th one and my personal opinions on it. But here's where you just choose. So before you actually put the course, you put the university. So again, let's go with my old faithful, King's College. And then medicine is A100. Now there are maybe not. Let's put for medicine. So yeah, so it didn't let me search the actual code, but A100, you have alternative codes as well. So A103 is quite an unusual one here, but then you've got the A102, which is the grad program. This is the one that I did, the MaxFax program, which is A104. But anyway, so most people will be picking this, or if it's dentistry, it's a 205, I believe. Yeah, perfect. So, and then again, there's the graduate version. Okay, so if we want one of the foundation universities, let's go for Manchester. I'll type in medicine. So here we go. That's where you got the 6 years with the foundation year. And again, the graduate and all the different versions that they have. Medicine here, curiously, is 106, but yeah, I'm not sure why. But it does vary a little bit, but A100s-ish for medicine, and dentistry is the A200 and 205-ish again, with a few numbers either side. So let's just go. So some of these will be self-explanatory. I've already done the date, so that's 1. Oh, sorry, it didn't let me scroll down. So this is quite important. So the start date, if you want, so you can apply for the next academic year. So let's say you're submitting your application in September 2024. That means that you'll start, if you get in, you'll start university in September 2025. However, you can apply for deferred entry, and you can only defer for 1 year. Let's say I want to take a year traveling, and I want to take a year out. So I can apply for September 2026, in fact. So I will go through the application this year the same way as if I was starting in September 2025, but the only thing is that once I get my place, I don't start that year, I start the year after. So it's a really nice way to defer the year at this stage. There are other ways to defer. Now, I personally, when I applied and I got my place, and then after I decided I wanted to defer. So I deferred by emailing the university and asking, but that isn't a guarantee, and you have to have a very good reason for wanting to defer. I did some charity work and went abroad abroad and traveled a lot, but I did have to kind of lay it on thick as to why I was deferring, and luckily they accepted, but there are times when they won't. In fact, when I went to King's, that was Cardiff that allowed me, but when I went to King's, they wouldn't allow me to do that. So important thing to bear in mind. So further details, as it says, only if the university have told you to do so, maybe if you've spoken to the admissions service or whatever it is, and they say, if there's anything you want us to be aware of, just put that here. So point of entry is going to be where you start. So let's say if you're going through the standard medicine course, it's going to be first year, so you just put first year. But if you're doing a foundation year, it's going to be foundation year, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty straightforward. It's usually either foundation year or first year. Will you live at home while studying? So some people do, some people go and stay on campus. Yes, no, whichever one. Then it will ask you to talk about whether you've had any criminal convictions. It says very specifically here, any convictions or other punishments that would show up on a criminal record check. So you'd probably be aware if you've had those. So I accidentally almost ticked that, I haven't got any. So this is what it looks like, and you will add obviously your 3 other choices for medicine or dentistry. You can add a 5th one, and a lot of people go for biomed. I have made a video here which I'll talk about as to which one you should go for. Personally, I think if you want to be a doctor or you want to be a dentist, then you don't probably want to be a biomedical scientist. So this might as well be direct and committed to it. It doesn't affect your application. No one sees it and goes, oh, this person is only half committed if they've done a backup. But I think that at the end of the day, you might as well go directly for what you want, and if you don't get in, you can always apply a second year. We get a lot of reapplicants at FutureDoc who didn't really submit a great application, weren't really aware of what makes a good application, and then we've helped them tinker with that and submit a much better application and get in second time round. So I think you're much better off going directly rather than doing a 3-year course which delays you and gives you more student debt, and then is a longer way round. So that's my personal opinion. Other people, there are reasons and valid reasons to not go for that, but that's just how I feel. And if, again, you can find out at FutureDoc exactly how to optimize your application. So future-doc.com. So just to run you through a few specifics, so foundation to medicine or dentistry courses are included in those 4 that you get. 4 is the maximum, like we said. You can apply to just one medical school if you have your heart particularly set on that. And especially grads, some people are in a situation where they have to be in a certain city and they only have one medical school available to them. You might sometimes, if say specifically if you're a grad, want to apply to the grad course and the undergrad course. You are considered slightly differently when you're applying as a grad to an undergrad course, but it still really shows the university that you want to be there, and if you're in that sort of situation, it can help to do that. One thing people ask is, oh, can I apply to 2 medicine and 2 dentistry? I would say that mixing medicine and dentistry is a big no-no. They're both competitive, and your personal statement has to commit to one of them. You can't say, they have so many applicants to both of those courses. If they have somebody applying to medicine and in their personal statement they're saying, here's why I want to be a dentist, they'll just throw that immediately in the bin. But also, you can't kind of sit on the fence with your personal statement. You have to say reasons why you want to go into one, and if you don't use the word medicine when you're applying to medicine because you're trying to hedge your bets on both, it's just a terrible idea. I've never seen anybody go both sides and get one of each, right? You're not going to do that, so pick something and go for it. And we have a great video on how to choose your university. It applies to medicine and dentistry, so it's really useful. So just to reiterate though, a 5th choice won't prejudice your application, so they say. And it's worth checking with the 5th choice course and university you want to apply to see if they would prefer a separate personal statement. But if required, it'll be submitted separately and directly to the university. And as we said, it can provide an alternative route because a science degree does allow you to apply to graduate medicine. But if you do that, it's much more competitive, so it's something to bear in mind. Make sure it's something that you actually want to study. But some of the courses that you could think about, there are other common alternative courses that you can take, and I've just put a list on screen now of some of those course codes and some of the ones that you might want to consider. But also, other allied healthcare professional courses such as physiotherapy, for example, they might be useful as a platform to go and submit a graduate application. But again, if you are in a position where you're applying from 6th form, just go for it. You can even have another application where you just go for it a second time as a reapplicant, and really only then would I consider thinking about do I want to do something else? Because it feels like a long time when you're in that position, a year, or losing maybe 1 or 2 years. But really, I can tell you from the hindsight of being a little bit older that these sort of things don't really matter, but they feel huge at the time. But like I say, it's really important to make sure that your personal statement is geared towards the course you want to go to, either medicine or dentistry, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So now once you've done choices, this is all the profile stuff is all pretty self-explanatory, your personal details and all that. The thing that I'd want to talk about is the finance and funding, because this is the bit that you might have questions and might be a little bit tricky, sometimes not. So I won't go through all of these, but the common ones are either that you're going to be privately financed, usually if you're a international student and you're having to pay the fees yourself directly to the university, or if you're going through something like student finances, you will be through the student finances services. So just a really important one to distinguish. And then depending on where your home county is, which will ask you, it will help determine who's going to basically process the application. So that's if you're going as an independent. If you're as a private, it's basically just you pay the fees. They'll ask the university, once you get your place, will give you a direct debit, and they just ask you to pay the bill, a bit like a restaurant, except for it's a very, very expensive restaurant. Now, you'll probably have a lot of questions around eligibility for this. Do you know where you apply, especially if you're in the UK? Am I Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland? So if you go Gov UK Student Finance, who qualifies? There you go. If you go to this one, then it will tell you exactly who's eligible and all of that stuff. So it makes it very clear for your specific circumstances where you go and what you apply to, what you're eligible for. But in a nutshell, whether you qualify for student finance will depend on your university or college, your course, if you've studied higher education course before. So for grads, it's a bit trickier. And we actually have a grad folder where we talk about student finance for graduates, because it's a really important thing, and often something that is a big determinant is into whether they can afford to go to university. They can apply, they can get in, and then sometimes tragically some people can't even afford it. So I've made a separate video on that for what to do if you're a grad and how to navigate student finance. It also will depend on your age and your nationality or resident status. You might be able to get help with your tuition fees and living costs to get full support, and that's means tested. So depending on your background and your home situation, and you might get some bursaries or maybe some grants even, and that will help with the finances and give you extra stuff. They might even give you a higher loan. They might also help with your tuition fee or tuition fee only funding. So there's a lot of help that you can get with those student finance services. A lot of international students ask us about scholarships and bursaries and funds in that way. And again, if you check out a video that I've made on that, just search the YouTube channel for scholarships, you can find that there. But ultimately, the thing to know is the type of help that you can get depends on your nationality and residency status. So if you're a UK national or Irish citizen and have a settled status in the UK, you can apply for full support if you meet the university course and age requirements, so basically if you get in. However, two things must apply for settled status. Your home is in the UK and you've been continuously living in the UK, Channel Islands, Isle of Man for 3 years before the first date of your academic start year. So before your course starts, to get settled status, you need those 3 years in the UK. So that particularly applies if you have come from abroad and you're thinking, am I an international? Am I a domestic? So 3 years is the important cutoff point. But if you have a different nationality or you live outside of the UK, there's a really helpful undergraduate student finance checker that can help you determine the type of help you can get depending on your nationality and residency status. So that it'll tell you if you can apply and also what type of loan you can apply for. So particularly if you're an international student and you're struggling, this website is fantastic. The UK CISA or CISA is going to help you find everything that you need to know and understand what you're eligible for. It's a great website and they have a helpline as well. So like I say, once you know all of this stuff, you can go back to this financing thing and choose the right one, and you'll be very clear on which one you should do based on finding that out based on your circumstances. So then as you can see here, we're then just working our way through all of these bits along the side. So we'll have done all, like I say, these bits are all pretty self-explanatory. So we'll move on to really what is experience. So that's education, employment, personal statement. So let's take a risk on not saving that. So yeah, be as detailed as you can with all of this stuff. It's really important to add all of your education, all of your qualifications. So let's just do mine again. I'm giving a little bit into my past life where I was a Arthur Terry student back in Birmingham. So the dates that you were there, the attendance type, the study mode, and then just add that and save it. Other things that they might want. So we want to be as detailed as possible for that. And there's also a bit for TEFL and IELTS, so international language studies. So if you're going to medicine or dentistry as an international student, if you're coming from a non-English speaking country, you have to have proof of language proficiency. So for IELTS, you need a 7.5 or above to be able to study, and that needs to be achieved by the time you start the course. So really important, and this is where you would put all of that stuff. So again, employment, you can just be as detailed as possible here. You can also use it for any roles that you've done for extracurricular activities or just positions of responsibility or volunteering that you've held. So again, just be as detailed as possible for that. Then we'll come on to the personal statement. Now, you'll have seen me do millions of videos on personal statement, and a good one that I do is a personal statement in 6 minutes video, and that's really going to give you the nitty-gritty of what you need to submit a good personal statement. But here I'm just going to focus on the technicalities or the formatting of it. So it's just important, again, to bear in mind that this is where you submit your personal statement. Make sure you've done it in a Word document or something with a spell checker and a character count checker as well, so that you can just copy and paste it to here. So don't be writing it or doing any edits in here. Copy and paste from another place. These are going to change soon anyway, so it's going to be 3 questions and you have a 4,000 character count total for all of it. But it's really important to bear in mind the character limit and the space or the lines limit as well. But total, it translates to about 2 sides of A4. So again, finally, if you're independent, this is where it will ask you for the referee details. But again, if you're Centrelinked, it will just have this automatically for you. And then at that point, you're ready to click submit. And then once you've done that, this is what it looks like. So you have submitted your application, and then this is where you'll come to for updates and responses from universities. So they'll tell you things like they've received it. They'll tell you if they're going to invite you to interview, or sadly if they've rejected you. Once you've had your interview, they'll tell you if you have been given an offer, all that sort of stuff. So it all comes through your UCAS hub. So really all there is to know is the important dates now. So for when you're applying to Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, dentistry, they all have an earlier deadline so that they can interview you as well. So it's usually around the 15th of October. Check, because it changes every year, but only usually by a couple of days, and it's usually 6 p.m. of that date. So don't be well ahead of that. Make sure that you're not scrambling around to finish your application the day before. Just try and get it in at least a week before. The medical and dental school said it doesn't affect your chances whether you submit your application when it opens at the start of September or whether you submit it on the very last day, but I think it's better to get it in nice and early and just be organized and just be ahead of the game so that you can just submit your best application. When it's rushed and panicked, it will just be not as good if it's hurried. So always good to be well organized, plan ahead, and get everything ready on time. So like I say, the applications for medicine and dentistry open around the start of September. The actual UCAS portal to open and start your account is mid-May, so you can do it well in advance if you want. But outside of medicine, dentistry, Oxford, Cambridge, all of the other applications close at the end of January. And again, just remember that it's not just the bits you have to do, but it's also the reference that needs to be completed on time to submit your application. If you miss the deadline, it's non-negotiable. If you miss that, they will not let you submit a late application. If you're applying to medicine or dentistry, it means that you have to wait another year to be able to apply. So really, it's worth being well ahead of the game so that you don't miss that deadline. And again, like I said, medical and dental schools state that they will only begin to review and look at applications once the submission date is over. And then finally, for all of that privilege and all of that fun, to submit your application, UCAS will ask you for a fee of, currently it's £28.50 for the privilege of submitting the application. So make sure you've raided your piggy bank for that money.
So I hope you found that useful. If you have any more specific questions, we are very active on answering the comments. So if you want to put your questions below, we will get back to you very shortly. Otherwise, if you'd like some help with your medicine or dentistry application, you might want to check out this video here and find out a little bit more about the Future Doc program, where every year we've had over 90% success with getting people into their first choice uni. Last year we had 93%. This year we're on course to beat that. So check out exactly how we can help you and see if you qualify for the program. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.